Ever heard the phrase, lions led by donkeys? That's a classic dig at military leadership. But what about lions? Led by other lions. World War II's Western Front was a spectacular clash of egos, a real-life soap opera starring some of the most brilliant and difficult commanders in history. And at the center of it all, a rivalry for the ages. The flamboyant, pearl-handled pistol-wielding American General George S. Patton versus the cautious, methodical, and arguably just as arrogant British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery. Their battle wasn't just against the enemy, it was against each other. A race for glory, headlines, and the ultimate prize, being the one to deliver the knockout blow to the Third Reich. And no single event captured this intense competition quite like the race to cross the Rhine River. The Rhine wasn't just a river, it was a symbol. For centuries, it was Germany's great natural western fortress, a line of defense both physical and psychological. To cross it was to plunge a dagger into the heart of the enemy's homeland. It was the final, formidable barrier before the German industrial heartland, the Ruhr. For the Allies, crossing the Rhine meant the end was truly in sight. For the Germans, holding it was their last desperate hope. So, naturally, every top Allied general wanted their name in the history books as the one who did it first. Let's set the stage. The Supreme Allied Commander, Dwight D. Eisenhower, had a plan. He favored a broad front strategy, advancing all along the line to keep the Germans stretched thin. For the massive, main-effort Rhine crossing, he chose Montgomery and his 21st Army Group. In the north, this was Operation Plunder, a meticulously planned, massive-scale assault involving over 1 million troops, airborne divisions, and an overwhelming display of artillery and air power. Monte, Everett the planner, scheduled it for the night of March 23, 1945. He envisioned a set-piece battle, a textbook operation that would be remembered for its sheer scale and flawless execution. He even held a press conference beforehand, laying out his grand strategy like a proud architect showing off his blueprints. It was going to be his moment, his historic triumph. But about 80 miles to the south, another general wasn't so keen on waiting for an invitation. Georges Patton, commanding the U.S. Third Army, was the polar opposite of Montgomery. While Monty planned, Patton punched. He believed in relentless, high-speed, opportunistic attacks. He saw Eisenhower's broad front strategy as a waste of time and a squandering of his army's aggressive potential. Patton believed in finding a weak spot, smashing through it, and running wild in the enemy's rear. He famously said, "A good plan, violently executed now, is better than a perfect plan next week." And he was getting tired of playing second fiddle to Montgomery, whom he viewed as overly cautious and a glory hound. Patton knew all about Montgomery's grand plan for Operation Plunder. He'd heard the radio broadcasts and read the press releases, and he thought, to hell with that. He wasn't about to sit on his hands and watch Monty grab all the headlines. His Third Army had been pushing hard, clearing out pockets of German resistance west of the Rhine. As his forces approached the river near the town of Oppenheim, south of Mainz, his scouts made a startling discovery. The German defenses here were surprisingly light. The enemy, battered and disorganized, had focused their main strength further north, expecting the main attack to fall exactly where Montgomery planned it. Patton saw his chance. This was the weak spot he lived for. On the night of March 22nd, a full day before Montgomery's scheduled D-Day, Patton decided to act. Without massive airborne drops or a week-long artillery barrage, he ordered the 5th Infantry Division to cross. Under the cover of darkness, in small assault boats, the first American soldiers slipped across the dark, swirling waters of the Rhine. It was a classic Patton move. Audacious, risky, and completely unexpected. There was no fanfare, no press conference, just a quiet, determined assault that caught the enemy completely by surprise. By morning, they had a solid bridgehead on the east bank, and engineers were already starting work on a pontoon bridge. Patton had done it. He had stolen the show. Now, imagine the scene at Montgomery's headquarters. He's making final preparations for his grand history-making operation, probably rehearsing the speech he'll give once his troops are across. Then, the message arrives. Patton's Third Army is already on the other side. You can almost feel the air go out of the room. Patton couldn't resist twisting the knife. He placed a now-famous phone call to General Omar Bradley, his direct superior. He reportedly said, with immense satisfaction, "Brad, for God's sake, tell the world we're across. I want the world to know Third Army made it before Monty." Patton even made sure to personally cross on the new pontoon bridge, and in a moment of legendary bravado, he stopped in the middle and pretended to urinate into the river, a symbolic gesture of his contempt for the enemy and, perhaps, for his rival to the north. So, the big question. What did Montgomery say? How did the famously prim and proper Field Marshal react to being so spectacularly upstaged? Officially, Montgomery's public reaction was one of dignified silence. In his formal reports and dispatches, he barely acknowledged Patton's crossing, focusing instead on the overwhelming success of his own Operation Plunder, which went ahead as planned the next night. And to be fair, Operation Plunder was a massive success. It was the largest amphibious assault since Normandy, and it completely shattered the German defenses in the north. From a strategic military perspective, Montgomery's crossing was arguably the more significant blow. But privately, that's where the real story is. According to those who were around him, Monty was absolutely furious. He felt Patton's move was a reckless, glory-seeking stunt that served no real strategic purpose and could have jeopardized the larger plan. He saw it as a breach of discipline and an act of pure showmanship. At a press conference after his own successful crossing, a journalist asked him about Patton's earlier feat. Montgomery's response was a masterclass in condescension. He reportedly referred to Patton's crossing as merely a reconnaissance in force. He downplayed it, dismissing it as a minor tactical action, in stark contrast to his own properly coordinated and strategically vital main effort. He then followed up with a carefully worded cable to Eisenhower. In this message, he didn't directly complain, but the subtext was crystal clear. He congratulated Ike on the successful crossings, both his and Patton's, but he framed it in a way that reinforced his own importance. He wrote something to the effect of, "The enemy is now being attacked from two directions, my main effort in the north and the secondary thrust in the south." By labeling Patton's crossing as secondary, he was putting his rival back in his place, at least on paper. He was asserting that his operation was the one that truly mattered, the one that followed the grand strategy, while Patton's was just an impromptu sideshow. This little phrase, reconnaissance in force, perfectly encapsulates the entire rivalry. For Patton, it was about speed, audacity, and getting the job done now. For Montgomery, it was about planning, control, and doing things the proper way. While Patton celebrated with a dramatic gesture, Montgomery wrote a carefully crafted cable to ensure history recorded his version of events. In the end, both men were giants of military history, and both played crucial roles in winning the war. But their clash over the Rhine crossing remains one of World War II's most telling and entertaining episodes, a perfect example of how personality and pride can shape the course of history even among allies. Fighting for the same cause, the war was won not just by bullets and bombs, but by the relentless drive of two lions, each determined to be king of the jungle. Thanks for watching. This story is just one of many incredible tales from the Second World War. If you enjoyed this dive into military history and rivalry, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let us know in the comments which historical rivalry you'd like to see us cover next. See you in the next video.